Welcome back to the bench. RW here. Going to show you how to put burley tubes in SCX10 axles so you can put XR10 or Wraith knuckles and chubs on the ends, and you can run XR10 universals. And this is a pretty straightforward thing. If you've watched my video on the rear axle, I go into a little more depth on some of the parts. I'm going to move a little faster this time because we've already covered stuff like the difference between the hardened gears and the stock gears. This is a locked up RC FI spool, okay, as compared to the locker, and stuff like that. We've already talked about the shifts hubs and all this, but what we haven't talked about, burley tubes. Burley tubes are frickin' awesome. They've got splined ends. They're quite thick, as you can see. They have a precision milled pocket for the bearing for the shaft on the inside, and there's really not a whole lot to installing this. It's not that hard. What you have to do though is you do have to carve away on the inside of the axle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here behind the camera to make sure that this is focusing and you can see the difference between a carved and uncarved end. Okay, and all you're doing is you're taking out the little ledge that's in there that's a bearing pocket, right, so the tube can go in. And that's all you have to do to it. You don't have to carve anything on the outside or on the inside. Okay, that's it. Pretty nifty. Now there are some more screws and drilling and stuff that you'll do to get the beef tubes really well secured into the axle. But we'll get into that in a little bit. So this one's already been carved, so I wanted to show you the process of carving this. So I'm actually going to come behind the camera here to do it so that you can really see that it's nothing to it. Now be very careful when you're using a razor knife. More people go to the emergency room for cuts from a utility knife or an X-Acto blade than just about anything else. So don't be putting your fingers anywhere where you can get hurt. Okay, I'm hoping that that's looking pretty good. You can see what I'm doing. What I do is I just guide my blade right along the inside of the housing. First I go one way, then I go the other way. You don't have to get the whole thing off at once because you can come back, and you can come at it from the side a little bit. You can do this with just very simple tools. And if you weren't putting a lot of stress on it, you wouldn't even need to drill extra holes and tap the tube and all this other stuff. But we're going to do the full Monty. Okay. Alright, now what you do want to do is once you get this pretty well carved away, is you want to make sure that you've got it as flat to the other surface as possible. And it's easy to tell because it's gray and the other surface is black. Right, you see it? You can tell if you've gotten as far as you need to get. You can also feel it with your finger and just see if it feels like it's pretty well flush to it. And then I like to scrape with the edge of the blade like that. Hoping I got a good angle here for you guys to see what I'm doing. Alright. That's still a little bit high right there. Okay, there we go. That's down right there. Alright, now we've gotten rid of that one. Do the same one to this one. It's really not very hard. Soft plastic, relatively easy to cut. Okay. And you might have better results if you kind of come in at an angle like I was doing right there. Okay, so this is the part where you mod it. Now once again, these are deluxe modded axle housings. They have the large bearing on the inside. See the big bearing on the inside? The little bearing on the outside. And that's going to make everything last a lot better and make all the gears mesh up nice. These burley tubes are going to make the axles virtually indestructible. They will, they can't twist or flex or anything. And this is where you really want to take a good close look. All right. Make sure you're not leaving anything sticking up because that'll make the burley tube not lay in there as nice as it should. Alright, that's feeling pretty much the way I would want it to be right there, except for this one little part right in here. Come out that way and get that off. Okay. All right then. Okay. And like I said, be careful, guys, because it's very easy to cut yourself with a knife, even if you think you know what you're doing, right? All right. Okay. Now that we've spilled some blood on this project, okay, get my super glue out and glue myself up. This is a great time to show you how awesome super glue is for fixing little wounds. Yeah, get some super glue on it, and then we don't have to worry about it getting blood all over everything, right? All right, glued myself back together. Now, what you do with the burley tube, okay, is you lay it in there. You'll notice there's a hole right there and a hole right there. They're already threaded. They're already tapped. It's really pretty amazing how nice and simple they made this for us. Now, before I put my gears in there, okay, because I don't want to have any kind of drillings or swarf, mixing with grease. That just is a bad idea. We're going to snap this together. Make sure I got this thing oriented correctly. Okay. Blood all over myself. I'm bleeding all over. Oh, wow. See how nice that super glue is working? I held the top part together, didn't get the bottom part. The blood is pumping out. This is pretty exciting. I hope you guys don't have a fear of blood or anything, because there's a lot of it going on right now. Pretty exciting. All right. Are you done yet? I want to paint on my butt. All right, you. Okay. All right. I'm done fixing myself. It's time to work on the axle again. Oh my God. What a tart. Okay. Yeah, every time I flex my thumb, it breaks open and more blood comes squirting out. It's awesome. Okay. So before I put any grease in there or anything like that, I want to make sure I got this thing worked out right. So put this on here. And here's the deal, okay? If you can see through that hole, you're doing good. Now there's these nice little collars that these guys have made, RC Bros. The Bros for the RC heads is indeed. And this is pretty slick how they did this. It's you can tell if you don't have it carved out enough because it won't close up properly. But if you have it carved out enough, it'll close right up. There we go. All right, that's gonna force itself right on there and really squeeze the crap out of that. I mean, that is really in there. That's awesome. Okay, we'll do the same over here. They're kind of like an egg-shaped hole in it. It's really interesting. So if you put it on with the hole towards the seam and then you rotate it, those puppies go right on there. Very, very nice. Hope I don't cut myself again doing this. I want to get those on better. Force that on there. There we go. Okay. Hopefully I'll be able to get that bastard back off. I didn't have my tube twisted the right way. So now this is when you want to twist your tube until you can look through and I can see you through the damn camera, right? So I'm looking through this hole, making sure I can see all the way through it, okay? So now your burley tubes, basically if you were lazy, you could just put some screws in the corners here. They provide them. They give you the screws right here. You'll see, and the little RC Bros sticker. But he also gives you these 4 little flatheads, the ones that are cone shaped. And what those are for is to drill in here, and then in here, and again in here, and then in here. So that what you're doing is you're grabbing the tube. And he suggests that you do it right where this kind of like, you can see the molding line makes this interesting little line here. Hope my bloody finger isn't too distracting for you guys. Okay, and then what you're trying to do is you just want to drill at a slight angle, and that's why he does the flatheads, because then if you drill at a slight angle, it all kind of like sucks up in there. Okay, so let's do that. Now what you want to use, okay, it's a 2.5 millimeter drill bit. Because because we're going to want to tap it. So you don't want to drill it a clearance hole, right? And then it's as simple as just drilling into it like this. Make sure I'm getting it just right. You don't want to go through both sides of the tube. Just want to make sure I haven't shifted my holes. Okay. Okay, that's one. Okay. I'm going to do the same over here. Same thing. Okay, and then you want to come around and do it the same over here, like this. And if you prefer, you could drill a different location. Sometimes people like to cut this web out and do it right there. It's really up to you. This is how they show to do it with their product, so I'm doing it that way. Okay, now we've made a giant mess, right? You can see why I didn't want to have any grease out here at this time. Okay, and now we're going to put a tap in. We're going to run it on low with the lowest setting on the clutch. I mean, this is an M3 tap. Okay, let's run it in there. Okay, and that's it for the tough part of it. And the rest of it's going to be just like assembling a regular axle. First I got to move some of my stuff here because this is not good. Okay. Get all this swarf, other debris, off of my beautiful parts here. Then I'm going to detail all the parts that are going into this, and so you can really see what I'm up to. Gosh, I sure don't want any of these little aluminum deals in my transmission. I mean in my gears, so get that out of my way. Go away, you. Alright, we once again have a relatively clear workspace. Okay. Alright, we can take all this stuff apart now. Okay, pull these guys off. Pull these guys off. Those are not like right or left, they both fit either side. But now that you've drilled your tubes, they are right or left, so don't screw up. So leave everything oriented the same way. What you want to make sure is that you don't have any swarf in there. Stuff coming out. Okay. Don't want that. Okay, so this one goes over here, this one goes over here, and you got to make sure that everything's lining up the way you want when you put it together, or you could be an unhappy camper. Okay. It's clean. Looks clean. Looks clean. Oh wow. That has got stuff loaded up all over the bearing inside. It's not going to come off without something in there. Get in there with something. Okay. Alright, yes. Do what I got to do. Make this work out. Okay. Alright, so now I know my parts are still the same orientation. Now I can make sure that my holes are where I think they should be. Make sure I've got everything lining up. Okay, so that's a beauty. That tube goes like that. Okay, gotta make sure this tube goes like this. Okay, this tube goes like this. Okay. Now, real quick, put some grease on the important part here. Okay, let's get some of this grease here. Don't need very much grease, okay? You just want to put it into the teeth. Okay, that's why I like to use the little rubber spatula. Control it a little bit better. Right. More. Red and Tacky is relatively waterproof, but it is not a true waterproof grease. So if you're really paranoid about your grease getting watered down, you should use marine grease or some kind of RC specific grease. Right? We drop that in there. It's already got the bearings on it. Okay. Sorry, didn't put the pinion in first. Here's the beautiful pinion. This is hot racing gears. Okay. In the rear I have axial gears. No particular reason for it. Have towels handy, guys. Make life easier. I should have had a towel down when I was drilling. I could have just picked it all up, right? Alright then. Let's see if we can get this the way we want it. Okay, first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I put my, I have a little spacer here. I get these from Lowe's. They're just number 10 nylon washers. Nylon's awesome. It's just about indestructible. I use that as a little shim. Okay. I just like to look at everything and make sure that I'm not missing anything. Okay. And then I lay my tube in. See how the tube lays in there? And I lay my tube in like that. Okay. Right. Beauty. Beauty, mate. Beauty way. Alright then. Okay. Next. Drop ditch. Derp. Alright. So, first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I've got the right ones in the right place, and it does not appear so. There we go. You can tell because you'll be able to look at your holes and see if they line up properly. So as long as you have your rights and your lefts, you will be in good shape. All right. Oh yeah, that's it. Okay. Now where I like to start on this is I want to put these babies on. That's the first thing I want to put on. Okay, and that'll help hold everything together a little better. Okay, oops, went too far. There we go. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty slick how they came up with all this, because the original beefy tubes were a real pain in the butt. They were just a big chunk of tube, and you had to do all kinds of things to make it work out. And then a guy came up with putting splines on them, but you still had to do a whole bunch of stuff to make them work out. And now RC Bros has got it down to where you really don't need many tools or anything. Now, I'm going to go ahead and use their little hardware pack here. Okay, and we will put in some hardware. Get rid of this grease. Need it out of the way. Okay, let's get some hardware in there. Okay, that looks good there. Get that to come through there. Hopefully everything will line up just right. Nope. The collars have holes that are a little small, and they're not lining up with the threads of the burley tube, which sucks. maybe I should have drilled them out. Put clearance holes on. Alright, just pull them out a little bit. Get this in there and get everything to line up, right? Okay, I think it'll go now. Yeah, the last kind of burly tubes or beefy tubes like this I used were made of Delrin. They're pretty cool, but the splines do tend to wear out after a while. And these ought to hold up for a nice long time. That's pretty cool. Okay, that's one down. And we'll get the other one. So now it's pretty mechanical at this point. You're just putting all your nuts and bolts together. I've got a few extra parts I'm going to be putting on mine. I'm putting on some level 3 RC stuff that it's not that great, but it's going to do what I want. I've got a panhard mount, a panhard bar mount, and I've got the upper link mount. And so, as you can see, you get those just like that. So they all line up nicely. Okay. Alright, and then we'll check it out and see how it looks with the universals on it before I put the rest of the screws in. Because this is just how it works. You just put a bunch of screws in. So everything's drilled and tapped and ready to go now. Okay. Alright, let's just take a look. Okay. So, these are all marked right and left. I think I've scrambled everything around because I've been jumbling around. But these are the lefts, right? And those are very, very nice. Just taking a look at that. These are the scale, the Wraith scale C-hubs and knuckles. It's already feeling pretty darn beefy, to be honest with you. Check your mesh, make sure everything's beautiful, right? I'm going to have to nut it up to make sure that's exactly right. I want to show you a little thing that you can do if you need to, for instance, mount something flush to this, like, for instance, this level 3 RC piece right here. It's got a mount like this. You can fill these little depressions. I'm carved these off. So here's a piece I've carved off, right? And they fit perfectly in here. And you can just trim them off, and then you have a flat surface, which is something I needed. So this is all just a little different than what you might have to do, because you're probably not putting something crazy like this on yours, but I am. So I got to get those on. Okay. And then I got to put in my, pardon me, lower bolt. Yikes. Okay, come on. All right, now I can start putting some stuff together. This is really going to be a super nice axle when it's done, because not only does it have the XR10 mod, you know, it's got the FI spool, and gonna have a built-in CMS setup, and then I'm also going to have a nice axle truss on top of having the burly tube. So that's kind of cool. It's going to be really, really strong. Stronger probably than I need it to be, which is fine. You can never tell how strong you need something until you break it, right? And that's when all of a sudden it becomes obvious that you didn't make it strong enough. Tighten this baby down. Okay, and then I will work on getting those other little angled screws in there. I just wanted to get this thing squished and make sure that my mesh is still good once everything is tight. See, I've had mixed results with the hot racing gear sets. Sometimes they're smooth as silk, and sometimes no matter what you do, you cannot get them to play right, and they just grind like crazy. So I'm hoping that these are the ones that are smooth as silk. So
I have pre-assembled this, but not fully. Alright, now we've got almost all the main stuff on. Okay, that's cool. Alright, and then we've got these little itty bitty flathead screws that have that angled part to them. And those will fit really nice right in here. And those will go right into the burley tube. Theoretically. Theoretically, that's what they'll do. We'll see. I always think things are going to be a little bit nicer than they are. Sometimes I'm right. Oh my. Wow, did that suck that case down. Yeah, that one worked. That one seemed like it was not quite hitting exactly right. But then again, I might not have had the right angle to get it. There we go. Got that one. Oh yeah, that sucked in real good. They don't look terrible. They don't look exactly right. They don't look terrible. You can hide these screws better places, I'm sure. But this isn't terrible. Oh yeah, that's pulling that case in a beautiful, beautiful way. This is the one that seems like it's just rolling around doing nothing. I gotta figure that out. Let's see what the deal is. Could be that the angle of it just wasn't good, the right angle. Yes, that's exactly what it was. I just didn't have it at the exact right angle. Okay. Now theoretically, when I put my axles in here, there will be no problems. We'll find out. Oh my. Oh my. Sounds grindy. Yep, it's these hot racing gears. I just don't like them. I would much prefer the genuine axial parts to these hot racing parts. And listen to that hot racing thing. It sounds like crap. Yeah. Yep. That's just not gonna work. Yeah, that's junk. Yeah, that's crap. That's how my other hot racing set was too. Just crunchy. Just terrible. And the way you can fix that, my friends, is you can try and pull this as far out as you can, like this. Make sure that your inside bearing is seated properly, because if it's in the least bit pushed in, it'll make it nasty. It didn't have any effect whatsoever, really. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is taking it apart and putting in a very, very thin gasket shim between the bevel gear and the FI spool, unless I can get this to very rapidly break in. I don't know about that. And the way I like to test these is I like to put a drive shaft on it and spin it by hand and just see how it all works out. Let's get the gears in there. And we'll go like this, and if the thing spins around a few times, it's not too bad. It's not as bad as the last set, but it is grindy. Feels like it's getting a little smoother. That's not too bad. Last time I did that, when I tried to spin it, it wouldn't even spin one revolution with the last piece of junk that I put on. And then I've got a axle truss here. I've modified this by drilling extra holes so that I get everything that I want to have happen, because I was not happy with the 3 racing design. It only used one screw, kind of like the axial plastic truss only uses one screw. And, oh yeah, we knew this was going to be a problem with